Japanese residents have been warned of further major tremors. The Japanese meteorological authorities have said that there is a 10 to 20% chance of another similar-sized earthquake striking within the next week. The Noto Peninsula was hit on New Year's Day by an earthquake that had a preliminary magnitude of 7.6. The shaking it caused measured 7 on the Japanese Shindo scale, which is the highest possible value. The JMA officials have measured 149 aftershocks in the region since 4 p.m. on January 1. Let's look at this report.
As the world was immersed in New Year's celebrations, Japan went through the horrors of yet another deadly earthquake of magnitude 7.6 on Monday afternoon, leaving several dead and injured. Rescue operations are underway as thousands of army personnel, firefighters and police officers from across the country have been dispatched to the worst hit area in the Noto Peninsula in Ishikawa Prefecture. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has also issued instructions to deliver necessary supplies to those affected by the quake.
We have been making all efforts to gather information since yesterday evening, but the blockage of roads means it's extremely difficult to access the northern part of the Noto Peninsula. An inspection from the above via helicopter has shown widespread damage including roads cut off, landslides and fires. Now that the tsunami warning has been lifted, we will be able to secure sea transport routes, and we have been working continuously since last night to mobilize not only the land transport but also air and sea transport to get the necessary supplies and rescue personnel to the area.
The however have been hindered by badly damaged and blocked roads, and one of the area's airports has been forced to close due to runway cracks. More than 149 aftershocks were also recorded by the Japan Meteorological Agency on Monday, while the agency also warned local residents of possible further quakes during the next few days.
From past examples, the likelihood that similar earthquakes will occur following a large earthquake is 10 to 20%. Therefore, please be cautious of earthquakes up to Shindo 7 in areas where powerful tremors took place for up to a week following the January 1st earthquake.
In the aftermath of the fatal quake, massive fire broke out in over 100 buildings and houses in Ishikawa Prefecture's Wajima city. This also resulted in suspension of all bullet train services on the Joitsu and Hokuriku lines throughout Ishikawa Prefecture by East Japan Railway Company. Japan's Western allies like the United States and UK have vowed help to the country in need. In a statement, President Joe Biden and Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak have extended their condolences towards the people affected by the quake. The recent quake also aroused concerns regarding the safety of Japan's nuclear industry. The Nuclear Regulation Authority said no irregularities were found at nuclear plants along the Sea of Japan. Hokuriku Electric's Shika plant, the closest to the epicenter, had already halted its 2 reactors before the quake for regular inspections and saw no impact from the quake. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's get an update now from Chris Gilbert, who joins us from Tokyo with more. Chris, more than 150 aftershocks and fear of another major quake. Are the authorities being pragmatic?
Urging people to remain vigilant, of course, about aftershocks. That buildings can be weakened but still stand by an earthquake like we saw on New Year's Day, but then still fall to a subsequent aftershock. So they are urging vigilance, but there is only so much that they can do with the roads in such bad condition, and the concern and the next danger is not just aftershocks, but rain that is expected to fall on Tuesday evening. As you can see, it's approaching nightfall in Japan at the moment. And so there's now another threat of not just aftershocks, but rain, cold, and landslides.
Chris, what's the death count like, and what's being done actually about the injured?
The death count currently stands at 48. It is in change. That is of about a few minutes ago. It may have changed since then as the authorities effectively work to find or the search and rescue effort really continues throughout the day. A lot of these are, people who have been trapped or isolated in their houses or buildings have collapsed on them. Neighboring buildings have collapsed on them. And due to the time that it is taking to reach and search these places, even a country like Japan, which is, has an expert team of disaster response, units, that it is taking time to really assess who is trapped and what the death count is. Now, in terms of the injured, there are 19 hospitals throughout the region in Ishikawa and neighboring areas that are still struggling with power issues, working on backup generators. 33,000 customers of the grid are still without power. And also there's concerns about their access to running water as well. And so the hospitals are facing issues and they have been treating a steady stream of people seeking a variety of serious injuries, depending on how people can actually access those hospitals to begin with.
Yes, and well, you have told us about the roads being affected, and so what's the assessment really, the damage to property? Any of the nuclear installations have been hit. What's being done also for those affected in terms of losing property?
Well, on the nuclear front, there are 3 or 4 nuclear power plants along the coastline in the area. Now, largely due to the fact they may have been away from the epicenter, or the fact that the tsunamis, did not eventuate to a scale that could have caused widespread destruction, the government is maintaining that those are, just regular, functioning normally, effectively. In terms of other destruction, as I say, it is vast. The government itself is saying they are still yet to really get their heads around the scale of it and just how many people have been affected. So we do know that 300 buildings burned in a fire, that fire we heard about earlier in Wajima City. That fire is now effectively under control and put out, but 300 buildings were destroyed there, and scores more throughout the Noto Peninsula, Kanazawa, Niigata City, and other areas. Not to mention just destruction to businesses, destruction to felled trees, to infrastructure. It is a vast disaster. The death toll, of course, is terrible, but this is the main holiday period to be with family in Japan. It is the start of the new year, and this whole region has had a grim and in many ways tragic start to 2024.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Chris Gilbert, for joining us from Tokyo with the latest.